Hello, 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 hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to talk about Tesla Q1 earnings call. One thing before we start, so I'm going to dive in deep. Why does the Tesla earnings call matter? There's a whole lot there. But before we get into that, I want to hit one key point. This is from my account on X. This got 1.6 million views so far. So Lost Gerbil, as I like to call him, formerly known as Ross Gerber, posted publicly that he's voting no on Elon's compensation package. I am concerned that of no vote if the shareholders vote no. And what the point of saying this is, I think you should vote yes. I will be voting yes on all my shares. I think voting starts in a few days, maybe a week or something like that. And I want to stress that it's very important that people vote yes. I I don't think it's likely that it will end up with a no vote, but if it does end up, there's some risk that it ends up with a no vote. I think we want to watch in particular for an organization called Institutional Shareholder Services. If they recommend a no vote, then a significant number of institutional shareholders are likely to vote no. And that could push the vote into a no if enough retail shareholders pull a lost gerbil and vote no. And I want people to understand this isn't, there's an argument a lot of people making, well, Elon, we owe Elon the money, or, Elon deserves it, or we voted for it before, so we have to. That's not persuasive to people who weren't voting then. That's not persuasive to people who are suffering from Elon man bad syndrome. Okay, so if you think that Elon is a bad man, okay, look, you might not like Elon, you might like his posts, you might not like what he says about whatever. You may want tyranny in Brazil and Australia and have Australia censor, what people say in America. I don't know. You can want whatever you want. But if you are a shareholder, your primary purpose in voting on Tesla stock is to increase the value of your stock, not decrease the value of your stock. And this is what I think the consequence is of a no vote. I think with a no vote, Elon leaves the company. I think that's a referendum on Elon. We don't think you deserve to be paid for your work, and I think Elon leaves, and he has plenty of other things he can do with his life. I do think there's some, 4D, 5D chess scenarios where Elon swoops back in a year or 6 months and buys the company back, or he buys the AI components of Tesla and puts them in XAI, negotiating with whoever the new management is. I think there's some 4 or 5D chess scenarios out there. They don't help us as shareholders. My scenarios do not help us as shareholders largely. If Elon leaves the company, I don't know. Some of the engineers are going to leave. A significant portion of the engineers who work at Tesla because they want to work for Elon. They want to work for a visionary CEO who's got a great mission in mind and pushes that mission and leads and lets them do great things. And if you watch my recent video about with Gwynne Shotwell, you'll see there's a philosophy of getting things out of the way of great engineers so they can do great things. That's at SpaceX, that's at Tesla too. The job of leadership at Tesla and SpaceX and Elon's companies in general is make it easy for the engineers to do great things, get the paperwork out of the way, get the bullshit meetings out of the way, and make it possible for them to do great things. And you bring in a John Scully or a Herbert Diess or whoever you're bringing in to take over Tesla after Elon leaves, they don't have that philosophy. It's not a great environment for engineers. And in particular, the AI engineers are already being heavily recruited by other companies that are doing great things that will pay them extremely well, and they will be able to work on interesting projects, and it will be a great environment for them. So it's already difficult for Tesla to retain their great AI engineers. Elon leaves. I think 90% of the AI team leaves. Elon just said in the earnings call, if I get, if aliens capture me or whatever, that will still solve autonomy. Tesla will still solve autonomy. I don't think that's guaranteed. I think the AI team leaves and autonomy might not be solved. And we might not be in a robo-taxi world. We might not be in an Optimus world. I think Optimus is even more remote. And then Tesla becomes a relatively normal car company selling maybe 4 or 5 million cars a year, great Super Bowl ads, 10% margins, and that means $100 billion market cap and a $30 share price. Share price is currently around $150, $160. So if you want your shares to fall 80%, then I guess vote no. But if you want to maximize the probability that your shares go to $1,000 a share, $2,000 a share, $5,000 a share, which is what Robotaxi and Optimus deliver us, then I think you should vote yes. And I'm voting yes. So I wanted to start off with that point. And this 1.6 million views so far on X. This is monstrous. This is one of my biggest posts ever on X. And Elon didn't like it. Elon didn't reply to it. Well, a lot of times my posts get a little bit of a boost if Elon replies. I've had about 25, 30 Elon replies to this point. Occasionally he likes a post and you get a boost when that happens. That boost has been diminished lately. They've fixed the algorithm so that doesn't happen as much. But 1.6 million views, a lot of people are seeing this. A lot of people are getting it. But I want to make sure more people get it. Make sure you vote yes. Send a message. We want Elon leading this company. We believe, and we want a company that pursues revolutionary change, that is willing to endure difficult times in order to move forward on delivering revolutionary change. That's really important. So I wanted to start with that. I know that that isn't the earnings call, but let's get into the earnings call now. So this is the what I would describe as the relatively mundane stuff that the Barry Glacks of the world wanted to hear, that the Wall Street types wanted to hear. This is in the slide deck, and Elon talked about it in the call. We have updated our future vehicle lineup to accelerate the launch of new models ahead of our previously communicated start of production in the second half of 2025. They had previously said next generation vehicle will start production in late 2025. So what they are doing is, since they have capacity that they're not using, particularly I think in Texas and Berlin, maybe Fremont, I think Shanghai, sorry, in Shanghai and Berlin in particular, I think to some extent in Fremont or certainly Model S and Model X will probably have more capacity on those lines. They've got new vehicles, including more affordable models, will utilize aspects of the next generation platform as well as aspects of our current platforms, and will be able to be produced on the same manufacturing lines as our current vehicle lineup. Okay, at the bottom, by the way, it says our purpose-built robo-taxi product will continue to pursue a revolutionary unboxed manufacturing strategy. So the vehicles that are coming sooner are not the cybercab. He called it a cybercab, by the way, in the call. They're not this robo-taxi cybercab vehicle. There are some newer vehicles coming, more affordable models. What are we including, but not limited to, more affordable models? So I think a couple theories here are, maybe something like a lower cost Model Y or Model 3. You could see motors that don't use, they were talking in the next generation platform about reducing silicon carbide, reducing rare earth use, different motors, 48-volt wiring, maybe drive-by-wire. There's a bunch of technologies that are, because they're mixing aspects of our current platform, utilizing aspects of next generation platform as well as aspects of our current platforms. Well, current platforms include drive-by-wire with Cybertruck. They include 48-volt with Cybertruck. I think it's very likely that any new vehicle will use 48-volt wiring, and that saves a lot. It's not clear what else they meant, but this could be a big deal, and we'll be able to produce on the same manufacturing lines as our current vehicle lineup. Now, they're probably not idling the Cybertruck line, so it's not going to be Cybertruck line that's going to be using that. And Model Y in Texas has been ramping and growing, so I don't think it's Texas's Model Y line. So I think it's probably, particularly Berlin seems to be underproducing, and Shanghai seems to be underproducing. Fremont is tricky because it's one of Tesla's least efficient factories in principle. So in design. So will they but Model S and Model X lines seem to be underutilized. So I think that's there. So Philip, it appears to be good news. I mean, if you're following the stock price, I don't know what happened to the stock price. I don't follow the stock price. What's the stock price at now? 160. The stock is up 10%. So if you are you're driven by what's the stock price this week or whatever, if that's the thing that drives you, then the stock price is up 10%, probably good news. I think people generally reacted well to the earnings call. I generally react well to all the earnings calls. I think I hear positive things in every earnings call. There are people who think, oh, Elon sucked this earning call. They'll say that, Elon underperformed or didn't do well. And I never know what they're talking about because they're looking for something that I'm not looking for. I'm looking for hints to the future. And I think Elon often drops a lot of hints about what good stuff that's happening in the future. No, the stock is not free falling. It's 10%. It's up 10% right now. I just checked it. And I don't care. Yeah, elonbits.com for the t-shirts and stainless steel water bottles and all that. So the update may result in achieving less cost reduction than previously expected, but enable us to prudently grow our vehicle volumes in a more CapEx efficient manner during uncertain times. This will help us to fully utilize our current expected manufacturing maximum capacity of close to 3 million vehicles. Elon said more than 3 million. So that's, the document says close to 3 million. Elon said more than 3 million. Enabling more than 50%. That could be, Elon time, Elon numbers are not always what everybody else. That's where when Elon says more than 3 million and the document says close to 3 million, it's probably not more than 3 million. You want to believe in Elon, but I think the more than 3 million comes with the next generation vehicle, the Robo-taxi product. So this would help us fully utilize our current manufacturing, enable more than 50% growth over 2023 production before investing in new manufacturing lines. So in a way, this is positive, and in a way, this is negative. For me, it's negative because it sounds like they might be delaying the really big stuff in the future. Which, all right, if you delay the big future a year, is that really a big deal? No. But if you enable more than 50% growth over 2023, that's around 50% growth would be around 2.8 million vehicles in, say, 2025. I think that they're saying in 2025 will be 50% above 2023. So that means close to 3 million vehicles in 2025. That may be optimistic because, there's always ramping issues when you're doing something different. But that seems to be what they're heading for, is they're shooting for 3 million vehicles in 2025. That's what I'm hearing. And then by the time you get to 2026, hopefully we'll have the Robo-taxi vehicle. We'll have vehicles built on the next generation vehicle platform, whether it's Robo-taxi or, compact or whatever. And those vehicles will be produced in much, much higher volume and much, much lower cost. And the lower cost side of it, the expectation was that the next generation vehicle platform would reduce costs by 50%. So if a Model 3, let's say, costs $30,000 to produce, it's a good ballpark, then a next generation vehicle would cost $15,000 to produce. Roughly decent ballpark prediction for what things are going to cost. And if you can produce a next generation vehicle for $15,000 and you're going to sell it, you can sell it for $20,000. If you produce a next generation vehicle for $15,000 and you run it as a robo-taxi for 1 million miles, then your cost of amortizing that vehicle over 1 million miles is only $0.015 a mile. And that's a hell of a lot better than a Waymo at $150,000 for 150,000 miles or $1 a mile. You can see how robo-taxi ends up changing the game if you can dramatically lower the cost of your robo-taxi vehicle and then have it run for 1 million miles. You just completely change the game. So, all right, so let's see. I want to move on. I'm going to go through notes after I go through my images. So there may be a little bit of repetition here. So vehicle and other software rolled out FSD supervised. We are currently working on ride-hailing functionality that will be available in the future. And then they dropped this image, which, sorry, I need to make that up a little bit. So this is an image of the app. So over here is summon. Over here is what it looks like when the vehicle is on its way to pick you up. This allows you to control the temperature in the vehicle before it arrives to pick you up and while you're in it, presumably. This shows, okay, I can't see that one. And this one shows you're en route to your destination. Now, the summon thing, I don't remember with Uber because I haven't used Uber in a while. I use Grab. And it seems to me you usually tell the vehicle where you want to go. And that's a step in the process that maybe is a pain point for users. It's not a big pain point, but it's a little bit more of a hassle to get a ride because you have to figure out where you're going, as opposed to you say summon, and then when the car comes and picks you up, you say, take me to Grand Central Station, right? Take me to, the stadium, whatever. You tell it to take you wherever you want to go, and it takes you where you want to go. And so that makes it a little bit better. That may be part of the theory. But the fact that they're developing it, and by the way, I want to say this. If I was an investor in Uber, I'd be shitting my pants right now. I haven't looked. Actually, I'm going to go check right now. What the hell happened to Uber stock? Uber stock is down 4%. Which, I got to see that again. Uber is a $140 billion market cap company. I'm not sure if they even make a profit. What's the future for Uber? If Tesla's going to have its own robo-taxi network, that's going to undercut Uber on price, and you don't have to tip, and you don't have to deal with some driver who doesn't speak English well. I'm sorry, it's rude, but that's the reality, right? People don't always like riding with Uber drivers for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they're great. I would say the majority of my Uber rides have been great, but there's issues. And if you have a robo taxi, then there's no issues. It's kind of like when Elon was describing the elevator operator, and maybe the elevator operator makes a mistake. Well, you're not dealing with a human anymore, and for some people, like particularly for women, getting in a car with a male driver can be uncomfortable. Um, so Elon didn't sound confident enough. Elon was fine on bot, but we'll deal with that later. So anyway, that was a big note, and this is from the slide deck. This image is from the slide deck. So they are developing ride-hailing software. I think there's a hint. I want to say there was a hint that maybe they would start a ride-hailing network with supervision, with drivers supervising it first, humans in the seats first. Maybe that's the plan, is that they're going to go into the markets where Waymo and Cruise currently operate and insert vehicles with humans supervising. And, if there's no interventions, there's no interventions. If they have half the crashes, they have half the crashes. If they demonstrate it works well, then at some point they say, we don't need the drivers anymore. They don't intervene. Yeah, Uber is not, I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm actually like now thinking, all right, do I have any free cash to, what is it, buy puts or sell puts or whatever? I got to figure out, like, could I bet against Uber again? Like a 2-year time horizon, something like that, because it's so overvalued. Sorry, that's off. That's a tangent. Okay, then another little detail here. Let me make this a little bigger. This is an image which surprised me a little bit. So up here is Giga Nevada, and then down here is apparently where they're going to build the semi factory. Now, this is not what we were told at the semi event. What we were told at the semi event was this factory was going to be expanded, and semi was going to be a part of this factory. So this is a change. And also, there was also going to be 4680 cell production here. So are they still going to expand 4680 cell production in this old building, or are they going to do 4680 cell production in the new building? We don't know. But they are at least underway on building a semi factory. I think they said in the earnings call that semi would start manufacturing in 2025, and maybe the first deliveries of the full, the ramping of actual semis delivering in significant volumes would be 2026. And they said they've learned a lot from the pilot program with Pepsi, and that helps them figure out how to manufacture semi better. So really good news. All right. There was this image in the slide deck, and it's called Cost Gains, Squeezing Every Penny Out of the Vehicle Cost. And I looked at that and I said, huh? I have no idea what this is. So I posted, hey, can somebody explain what this is? And I tagged Jeff Lutz, the Jeff Lutz on X. If you're not on X, by the way, please sign up for X. Please get a verified account. Get the blue check mark. It matters. It matters for X. It matters for a variety of reasons. And you get fewer ads, by the way, if you get a verified account. I still get some ads, but less. And of course, I still get replies with, nudes in bio or whatever. You have to go to more replies to see those. Some very nice pictures. So Jeff says you're tearing down the base layer of product. You get a cross-functional team in one room space. Cross-functional meaning different parts of the company that work on different parts of manufacturing the car. You get everybody in one room space and go part by part and look for opportunities. Physically mark each part with ideas. I want to thank again Jeff Lutz for this. The power is getting everyone together in one space so there's instant collaboration and answers, no vetoes later. Turn into an action register with accountable names and dates. Program manage the hell out of it. Sometimes the most senior leader will set a target. We don't break this form until we find a minimum of $3,000 in savings. Now, I don't think there's $3,000 in savings to be squeezed out of a Model 3 or Y, but $1,000? Yeah, I think they might be able to squeeze a little bit more out. So that's the team, and I believe that one of the key leaders of the Tesla supply chain team liked this post. So this is like important stuff. And it's one of those things where people like Jeff and me, like, I posted this question, Jeff answered, and somebody from the Tesla team liked the post, which kind of confirms. So this is one of the ways we learn, and I think this is one of the values that people like Jeff and I contribute. And there's a lot of us. It's not just me. It's Farzad. It's the entire Rebellionaire team. Frankly, Jordan Giesecke from Limiting Factors. So many of us who one way or another, we're able to like help everybody understand Tesla better. And I'm not claiming like I'm the genius here. I'm just saying like I'm asking some questions. Not just I'm asking questions. I think I'm asking the right questions sometimes. And I think my perspective helps sometimes. Sometimes I'm wrong, but sometimes my perspective helps. So then another key detail from the slide deck was this is the Dojo training cluster. And it says not a render. So this is an actual render. And if you look close, let me make this a little bit bigger. What you see is that there's these, I want to say metallic rectangles with a, geometric shape at the bottom. And then there's the gap in the middle, the white line in the middle. Now, it took me a while to see what this was, but I believe that the metallic rectangle is the front of a cabinet, of a Dojo cabinet. And then the white line is at the back of the gap between the cabinets. And then the grill on the side is probably ventilation for the cabinets. So I counted 7 Dojo cabinets here on X, and I did a post to do my best to explain this. So this is a cluster with 7 or more cabinets. We can only see 7 in the picture. According to what we were told before, an exapod, a full cluster from Tesla, would have 10 cabinets. So is this a 10 cabinet cluster? Is it a 7 cabinet cluster? We don't know the answer to that. If I understand correctly, and this is a big if, this is basically from Wikipedia and what I remember from AI, one of the AI days. Each cabinet contains 2 system trays with 6 training tiles each. So that's 12 total training tiles for a total of 300 D1 chips, because each training tile has 25 chips, and over 100,000 cores. And each core is a component that is able to do training, right? You can train on multiple cores, but one core can do some training. So if you have 100,000 cores, you can do 100,000 trainings. And I'm oversimplifying. I'm sure it's more complicated than that. So a 10 cabinet exapod would have 3,000 D1 chips, over 1 million cores, and 1 exaflop of compute, or roughly 1 exaflop of compute. And that 1 exapod would be a little less compute, maybe a little more than half the compute of the NVIDIA A100 cluster that Tesla had back in 2021. So if it's just 1 exapod or it's 7 cabinets, it's not that big of a deal yet. But I think it was maybe Ashok specifically mentioned Dojo in the earnings call. Dojo is becoming a factor. Now, Elon also said, and I'm going to be getting to this, that Tesla now has 35,000 H100 chips from NVIDIA, or H100 GPUs in their cluster, which is double what they had the previous quarter. So they have a massive amount of training compute. I don't think that includes the A100. It's not clear whether when Elon said 35,000, did he mean specifically H100s or did he mean H100 equivalents? Not clear. I have another slide. Oh, I think I left this out. Sorry. Let me, sorry. No. This is the amount of compute that they have. The Tesla AI training capacity H100 equivalent GPUs, and you've got over 35,000. So did Elon mean they have 35,000 H100s, or did he mean they have the equivalent of 35,000 H100s? I think he meant the equivalent because that's what the slide deck says. And if he meant H100 equivalents, I believe that the 14,000 unit A100 cluster would work out to about 10,000 H100s. I believe he previously said they had 10,000 H100s, so that would be 20,000, and that would leave 15,000 potentially for Dojo. I'm just guessing here. I don't know. And you see that this number is rising steeply. I don't know how easy it is for Tesla to get chips from NVIDIA. Sorry, coding is power. The voting, I believe, will start in late April, and you contact your broker to figure out how to vote. Like I use Fidelity. I'll have a message in my account. It'll be something very straightforward for me with Fidelity. Think of it, Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, whatever. It's very straightforward to vote. So Mark Plot says 35,000 H100s. Eric Mulder says there's 20,000 H100s. I don't know. I don't know how much of this is this 35,000. And Elon said they were heading towards 85,000 H100s by the end of the year. Now, Elon says H100s. The slide deck says H100 equivalent. So really not clear what's meant there. My gut hunch is that they have somewhere between 10 and 20,000 H100s. They have the equivalent of 10,000 H100s with 14,000 A100s. And then they have some amount of Dojo that makes up some amount of that. Now, if the 14,000 unit A100 cluster is 10,000 H100s and Dojo is half of that, that would be 5,000. And so you have 10,000, 20,000, 35,000. That would roughly cover it. But the point is just massive increase in compute power. That massive increase in compute power means that they're able to train a lot more models a lot faster. They've got more data coming in. And what we are seeing is that FSD version 12 is getting updates like maybe more than once a week, where we used to wait like 2 months for updates. And the updates are bigger updates. So we're getting massive, massive improvement. Yes, J. Kim, I know Musk said they will have 85,000 H100 GPUs training AI by the end of the year, but did he mean H100 specifically, or did he mean H100 equivalents? The chart from the slide deck says equivalent, right? And this is 35,000. So, and we knew they had 14,000 H100s, which is about 10,000 H100s. So I think that it's just, and I think last we heard they had 10,000 H100 GPUs. So I don't think they bought another 25,000. I think this is more likely. I believe you can start voting in late April. So I think that answers that. Okay, did I cover? Right, okay, so we covered all that. So let me turn to my notes here, and you're not going to see this, but some random details I'm just going to hit. 75% growth in energy storage coming. I think that's the year 2024 versus the year 2023, the amount of energy storage deployed we're going to see in 2024. And they should be at 40 gigawatt hours of capacity by the end of the year in the mega factory in Lathrop, California. They didn't say anything about the mega factory that's being built in Shanghai, so my guess is that that will not be producing megapacks by the end of the year. That's my best guess. If you extrapolate the graph, we'll scalp Warren. That's right. Ching! Cybertruck ramp was over 1,000 a week already, I think 2 weeks ago. They are facing some challenges. This was Lars talking. They are facing some challenges in the Cybertruck ramp related to supply chain or other things. I covered the H100 GPUs. Ashok mentioned Dojo nodes. So is Dojo doing 15,000 units of H100 work already? 5,000 units. I think it's 5,000, but that's a good guess. I think Elon said that hardware 5 would be ready by the end of next year, and there was a reference to hardware 6 and hardware 7 coming somewhere in the future, which is probably well down the road. Nobody's talking about Dojo and Giga New York. I haven't heard anything about Dojo and Giga New York, so that's why I'm not talking about it. So then Tesla will operate the Robo-taxi network. This was kind of a big deal. This is something that I think Elon talked about at Autonomy Day, but I think people haven't processed it. I don't think Wall Street got this. I think Wall Street is reacting to the bringing forward of new vehicle production, which I'm going to talk about more in a minute. But Tesla operating its own Robo-taxi network, including its own vehicles and consumer-owned vehicles. And Elon was talking about tens of millions of vehicles driving 10 hours a day. And we are currently working in ride-hailing functionality that will be available in the future. That was the image that I showed you. So if you think about that, I've done my model. Imagine Tesla has 10 million robo-taxis making $50,000 a year in gross profit. That's $500 billion a year in gross profit. 2022 gross profit was like $20 billion. It's a 25x. And really, the future is probably, and now some of that is consumer-owned vehicles, and some of that is Tesla-owned vehicles. He didn't say we're going to stop selling cars. What's the future look like? I think the future looks like Tesla's producing, a larger volume compared to today of vehicles they're selling today or something similar, but a very high volume of the robo-taxi vehicles, and the robo-taxi vehicles are probably all owned by Tesla or by fleet partners. And they're generating massive profits for Tesla. They got money to build a Dojo data center in New York. I don't know whether, the big advantage of New York is probably access to electricity generation resources from hydro in Ontario or Quebec. It's right near Ontario, so maybe there's some low cost electricity they can get in high volume from Ontario. That's my best guess there. So I've talked about the robo-taxi model before. Stephen Mark Ryan's talked about the robo-taxi model before. Dave Lee's talked about it. A lot of people have talked about it. That is the game changer for Tesla to become a multi-trillion-dollar company. It's not making 4 million vehicles at 10% margins with Super Bowl ads that's going to turn Tesla into a multi-trillion-dollar company. It's robots, robot cars taking people for rides without a human driver, dramatically lowering the costs, and able to deliver a massive value to riders while delivering massive profits to shareholders. um, take market share from Uber and Lyft as soon as 2025. I don't think Tesla will take significant market share from Uber and Lyft or taxis in 2025. They might take a tiny bit, but not much. I think it's probably going to be, my guess is that they will start robo-taxi trials by the end of this year into early next year. And then by 2026, you will start seeing volume. Sometime in 2026, we will start seeing volume robo-taxis, but this is all guessing until it's real. So then there was another detail in the earnings call that I feel like people, that, that's the kind of thing that Wall Street would miss. That's another thing that leads to like, wow, that could be a lot. And I haven't wrapped my head around how much money this is. I called a friend. I did a, I think there's like some game show where you can call for help. So I called for help to understand this, but let me lay out what I have in my notes first. Then I'm going to go through what my friend said. I'm not naming the friend. He's somebody you've probably seen in videos, very prominent expert on AI. 1 kilowatt of inference compute per car times millions of cars becomes like the Amazon Web Services model for AI training. And I was trying to understand what are the use cases for this. They mentioned processing documents. What else? So I called a friend. See if I can find that. I'm going to go through what my friend said in response to my question, which, wow, it's been a while. Okay. I'm trying to get to the answer. Okay. You spend, okay, so there's a lot of neural nets that are used to, so there's, sorry, let me cover a particular point. When I talk about neural nets, neural net, machine learning, all this AI stuff, the way I see it, and I think I'm correct, and I'm sure I'm getting some little details wrong, and maybe this is oversimplified, but you have training compute, which is what we were talking about with the H100s, with Dojo, with the A100s, in a data center somewhere, like Tesla has them in either Fremont or Palo Alto or Texas or something like that. And maybe they're going to be doing a Dojo data center in Buffalo, whatever. That's training compute. The car has inference compute. So I'm gonna analogize this to us, to humans. You go out and you have a day and you do a whole bunch of stuff. Okay. And you do something challenging and you take a class or you do a martial arts class or you play a basketball game. And when you go to sleep at night, and this is my interpretation of how things work, it doesn't mean I'm right, but this is going to apply back to the neural nets in a second. When you go to sleep at night, your brain there's a segment of your brain that's like shit happens and you react to it, and that's inference. And then there's like some level of thinking and retraining your brain to handle that when that shit happens again next time you handle it better because your brain retrained your, it's kind of like muscle memory. Like I literally this just happened. I fell yesterday. I was out walking. Bangkok is notoriously not, it's not notorious, it should be notorious. Bangkok has awful sidewalks. They're better than Da Nang, Vietnam, where the sidewalks are just scooter parking, and they're better than India, where they don't even have sidewalks. But the sidewalks are, and like Japan has spectacular sidewalks, best sidewalks probably in the world. But Bangkok has just terrible sidewalks. And anyway, I know that they're bad. I usually watch my step, and I was walking with my girlfriend, and we had to cross the street, and I was looking ahead to see, what was the good moment to cross the street, and I missed the dip. There was like a sewer cover or something like that. It was like 3-4 inches down. I felt my ankle give, and then everything was inference. Like I wasn't planning what happened next. I reacted, and I don't even remember what exactly I did, but I fell. I fell. I think all this again, muscle memory to avoid greater injury to my ankle, and my ankle's doing really well. And I basically just reassure you all, I basically no significant injuries as a result of this. I'm taking it easy for the next couple days just to be sure. But and my best guess is I went down, I hit the ground with my hands and forearms, and then I rolled to dissipate the energy. That's what I think happened. I actually don't know what happened. That's what I think happened. And I remember hitting my arms pretty hard on a pretty hard sidewalk. And then, I got up and like, I felt like the jolt to my arms, but my arms weren't hurting any. Now I've added muscle mass in my arms. I particular issue with my left arm. Had some weakness a couple of years ago. Physical therapist gave me some exercises. I literally doing this exercise, I couldn't lift 3 pounds one rep. You gave me a 3 pound dumbbell in this hand. I couldn't lift 3 pounds one rep going like this. I could hold it and let it drop, but I couldn't bring it back up without helping. And now I do 10 kilograms, which is 22 pounds, 15 reps. So and doing that increased muscle mass in my forearms, which is what hit the pavement. Not pavement, it was like some weird funky tile sidewalk crap shit. And anyway, I hit, and my forearms basically not hurt. I swam this morning and felt a tiny twinge in my right elbow. I got a little bit of a scrape on my left knee that I didn't notice for hours later, and my ankle's better. But so the point is that somewhere in my life, whether it was playing a lot of basketball, playing a lot of lacrosse, martial arts training, whatever, I learned to fall, and that falling, how to fall was built into my muscle memory. And even though there's a gap of years before the last time I fell, or the last time I practiced falling, I fell well. Now, maybe I was just lucky, but I think I fell well. So bringing this back to kind of a big tangent, but I think generally speaking in life, you're out, you're learning languages. I just took a language class today. Tonight I'll go to sleep, and the training compute in my brain is going to program my mind to do better at handling, Thai language tomorrow, right? So what machine learning has is you have training compute and you have inference compute. The car is driving down the road, and light comes in the cameras, and that the video comes in the cameras, and that video information goes into the hardware, and the hardware processes it and reacts. It doesn't really do a lot of thinking. There's some planning, but a lot of what it does is just reacting to the photons. Okay, that's basically the idea. Is the training compute sends training down to the inference chips, and the inference chips act based on what the training chips told them to do. This is how you handle the situation. Whatever happens, these are the weights that are put in, whatever. So these cars have this computer that's called inference compute, and a lot of what happens in AI, a big chunk of what happens in AI is training, and another big chunk of what happens is inference. So according to my friend, I'm not naming him because I didn't ask him if I could use his name, and I should have asked him, but probably 95 to 99% of neural network compute is inference, not training. So we hear all this talk about H100s and A100s and Dojo, and we make a big deal of that. But the vast majority of AI work that is done is actually the inference chips in the cars, and the inference chips that are used in Amazon, deciding what to show you on the web page when you click on a button, right? It's not training. Amazon is using AI to decide what to show you. And there's so many different things that happen where you're seeing things on the screen, or you're doing things in life, and those things are being responded to by inference. You post something on X or Facebook, and there's a censorship decision. That's probably inference compute, right? There's AI inference compute going on there. So, so you spend $1 million training a model because you're going to spend 10 million or 100 million using it for inference. So there's already a lot of neural nets that are used to process data. All the big internet companies use them for recommendations, ads, safety, and moderation. They're also used for weather simulation, drug development, all kinds of scientific research, weapon development, all kinds of stuff. If the hardware in the car is designed to be able to do offline processing of neural net inference when it's idle, then it can take on any of these kinds of jobs that aren't time sensitive, and most of them aren't. Right? So if the car is running, sorry, let me just be clear here. The car, my analogies are kind of messy. Yeah, well, it's messy in here. So the AI training that goes on in my brain did not get the inference compute working smoothly yet. So, oh my God, lost my train of thought here. That's because it's messy in here. So neural net. So I asked the question that when he pointed out most of the compute in the world will be used for neural net inference, really, he said probably most of the compute in the world will be used for neural net inference really soon, like by 2026. And I asked about that or comment. He said, because neural nets are so useful and so compute hungry, big companies are planning and building lots of large data centers, which will be primarily used for neural net inference. So what the deal is that the cars have these computer chips in them that are extremely efficient for this kind of work. They had to be efficient because they're running in cars and they have to be very careful with how much energy they use. So they're very efficient. And your car is driven, like if you own your car, you drive your car maybe 2 hours a day. So it's sitting there for 22 hours a day, and you have this like powerful inference chip that could be used to do useful computing work, and it's connected to the internet by Wi-Fi from your house, and so now Tesla is going to have a distributed network of, let's say, 10 million cars and more in the future. 6 or 7 million cars already, and 10 million plus in the future, maybe 20 million or more, all with these chips, and they're all networked, and there is neural net processing work that needs to be done, inference processing that's going to need to be done, and these cars will be able to do this. And the value of that, like, I don't know how to place a value on that, but it's huge. It's tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue a year in the future, I think. But I mean, tens of billions for sure, hundreds of billions, I'm not sure, but it's a really, really big chunk of money in the future. So it's how Google serves you ads, how Facebook, Twitter, Instagram select the stuff in your feed, how Amazon selects products to promote. It's becoming a big part of how computer programmers do their jobs, and it'll be the central tool for programming within another 5 years. It'll take over most customer service, and voice natural language interfaces will become common very soon. Hollywood will be using it to make movies. I actually commented on this. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. I do a lot less edited video content. I do a lot more live streams. I think that within 2 or 3 years, the vast majority of videos on YouTube and X will be generated by AI, and human generated edited videos will not be able to compete with AI generated videos. But AI will take a few years longer to be able to compete with live streams. So I've shifted. I also like doing live streams better than doing edited videos, by the way. So I got Alzheimer's. Yeah. Not yet, baby. Not yet. It's coming, but I don't have it yet. So Boeing will use it to make and fly planes. Hopefully, they'll start do something to make and fly planes better. Armies of the world will use it to defend their countries by providing analysis, gathering intelligence, operating smart weapons. Expect to see 24/7 global satellite surveillance for military purposes by the end of this decade, all analyzed by neural net inference, keeping an eye on the other side. Huge changes coming. People don't really know what Google does to make its magic web pages work. When it moves over to inference, they won't notice much, just that it'll work better. Google did language translation for a long time before it went over to neural networks. The only thing users noticed was it was suddenly started working a lot better. Same with Netflix recommendations, spam filters, ad targeting, and Amazon on-time performance. So, all right, so that covered that point. Okay, I think I covered that point. Let me look at the chat for a second. What's the point of a robotaxi specific vehicle if the existing fleet can be the robotaxis? The robotaxi vehicle, specific vehicle, will have a lower cost per mile, will probably have a longer life, right? So the cost per mile of a Model 3 doing robotaxi work might be 15 cents a mile over the life of the vehicle. The cost of the robotaxi vehicle might be 10 cents a mile over the life of the vehicle. And when you work that out, that means you go from a maybe 50-cent price point to be meaningfully profitable with the Model 3 to a 20 to a 30 cent per mile price point for the robotaxi vehicle. That's the big deal. And also, the robotaxi vehicle will be possible to manufacture in much higher volume at lower cost, so it's easier for Tesla to manufacture a high volume of robotaxis. Do I think Tesla's losing the loop in Vegas plus Dojo to create a virtual LiDAR? No. I don't even know what that would mean. Ford will be saved by Tesla via robotaxi. They did talk about FSD licensing. It sounded like they don't expect any. If they make a deal with a vehicle manufacturer, it'll take that vehicle manufacturer 3 years to actually integrate FSD into their cars. He said that they were in talks with one vehicle manufacturer. A lot of people think Ford is the best guess. I think BYD is the most likely. Well, it wouldn't be an AI generated Warren Redlick. It would be an AI generated character that isn't someone today, that just like the AI generated Instagram models that are getting huge popularity. They're not based on any real person. They're just, and you get somebody who can talk better than me and look better than me. And, you have AI write the script. It's better than whatever I would write. And Farzad did a test and it performed better than him. So the voting window, I believe the voting starts in late April and goes into June. Yeah, AI far is not already real. Exactly. Thank you, Mark Plot. I think we thought of that at the same time. Elon and licensing FSD. We're in conversations with one major auto. Yeah, so who's the major automaker? He didn't say a legacy automaker. Tesla's already partnered with BYD, right? They buy batteries from BYD. Um, I don't think it's necessarily the case that the FSD that the company that licenses FSD would be Legacy Auto. I think BYD makes a lot more sense for a lot of reasons. So, and I see, by the way, I see BYDs. I keep seeing BYDs and Teslas. I'm seeing more and more of them here in Bangkok. It's amazing. When I first arrived in Bangkok in December, I almost never saw a Tesla. I saw a few BYDs. Now I'm seeing a lot of them. The BYD Seal, the BYD Dolphin, the BYD Atto 3 is a small SUV that they're pumping. That's the big vehicle they're pushing now. The Seal looks a lot like a Model 3 and costs about the same as a Model 3. And I'm seeing more Model Ys. And I was walking home today from the station. It's about a 15-minute walk. A Model 3 cut me off, a brand new Model 3, with, you can tell by the tail lights because there's no brake in the tail lights. Made a left turn in front of me, and it didn't quite cut me off, but it was close. And then I saw a Model Y and I saw a BYD Seal, all within the span of like 5 minutes. Seeing more and more of them, really good sign. Tesla can start competing with Uber and Lyft now. They can start small by having a driver. It's not necessary yet. They don't need to wipe them out yet. They would use the loop vision data to make camera measurements super accurate. I don't see the advantage of that. I'm sorry. Have I seen the Microsoft video lip syncing? No. My body language says a lot. Okay. Better get on the FSD list for the pod car. That's the plan. Personal note, I have pretty much locked in a condo in Bangkok. Little side note, locked in a condo in Bangkok that I will be moving into early May. I'm going on a trip to lock in my retirement visa for Thailand. Still, my permanent address is still in Florida, but I will have a base of operations in Bangkok. And I have started the process of looking for a young engineer, fresh out of college engineer or something like that, 2 years of experience or none really, to start building pod car prototypes. But I haven't hired anyone yet. I've had talked to a couple of people, but I haven't gotten far enough. And then I have this random idea of creating a real estate website in Bangkok, but that's a longer conversation. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you for your support. 2 Tesla shares yesterday. Congratulations. 10% return in one day. That's good work. How does Waymo charge their cars? I don't think Waymo uses electric cars, do they? I thought they shifted from the Jaguar I-Pace to a different car. I forgot what they're using. Could the change in manufacturing make the 25K car a 30K car? The change in manufacturing, it's not a 25K car. Okay, the Robo-taxi vehicle is a sub 20K car. The new cars that they're going to be making, probably the affordable cars, will be in the ballpark of 30K. But yes, it does mean, and they said this clearly, that manufacturing costs will be higher than for the next generation vehicle planned, but lower than the current costs. I don't know what Argentinian whatever is in US dollars. I don't care. I just appreciate any support whatsoever. But if you want to support me, I really appreciate it. Please super chat me. Become a member of the channel. Support me on as a YouTube channel member. Support me on X in particular. Please follow me on the X platform, WR4NYGov, and subscribe to me there. Will I renounce US citizenship? No. No, absolutely not. I will not renounce US citizenship. I will hope to have children. My children will become US citizens. I will probably spend some time in the US with my hopefully soon to be wife, and we will get her citizenship. There's no proposal yet. We're not getting married anytime soon. Nobody's pregnant, but I think that's the long-term plan. So no, I'm no intention of getting rid of US citizenship. I actually don't make that much money. So yeah. No, if Tesla keeps cutting prices, they'll end up cheaper than your pod car. No, their plans. I don't see anything in Tesla's planning that would get them down to the low cost of the pod car. I think that's 10 years out for Tesla, and I think I can make it happen in 5. Yeah, no, I still love America. Not canceling my citizenship. It's just the cost of living here is insanely low. I'm going to be paying $540 a month for a 2-bedroom condo with 2 bathrooms in a great building with a great pool and a great gym. And the condo has absolutely spectacular views of the Chao Phraya River. And it's close to, there's actually like a back door into the decent mall called Gateway, and it's a 10-minute walk from my girlfriend's mom's house. So will I eventually move to a city in Thailand that has cleaner air? Not yet. Not yet. No, I'm not pregnant. My girlfriend says my belly looks like I'm pregnant, but okay. So let me get back to it. Sorry, that was a digression. Okay. So Vibhav expects inventory. So this quarter was a negative cash flow quarter with a big buildup in inventory. The fact that they had vehicles stuck on ships, there were other hassles, means they overproduced and underdelivered because a lot of vehicles were stuck on ships. And Vibhav said something expecting then the inventory and cash flow to reverse in Q2. They didn't say how big of an impact that would be on Q2 numbers. I am predicting today, and I predicted before on X, that Tesla will deliver 500,000 cars in Q2. That's a big number. That's a little bold. It's probably too bold, but I think they have a shot at deliver because they had such a holdover of inventory from what happened that I think there's a shot that they deliver 500,000. And Model 3 is ramping, Cybertruck is ramping. Um, there's a lot of good things happening, and you have this big wave of deliveries that were held up that will get delivered. So I think there's a real shot at hitting 500,000 vehicles in Q2. If that happens, that's a really big deal from a short-term perspective, not from the long-term perspective that I usually focus on. Okay. Bringing forward new vehicles, the full gains from next generation vehicle manufacturing probably delayed as a result of this. This is one of the important things that I didn't love from my perspective as a long-termer is I wasn't worried about short-term numbers. I want to see Tesla get the next generation vehicle going on the unbox process, all the new manufacturing process that really drives down cost and allows them to manufacture at radically larger scale. I think the sense is that they feel unsafe spending all the money on capex to build out new factories and new manufacturing lines for this next generation vehicle when we have a difficult economy and there's cash. Even though they have 26 billion in cash now, there's still concerns that you don't want to run down your cash investing in something that if the economy tanks further, you might not be able to sell as many cars as you're hoping for. So I guess this is a conservative approach. I don't like them being this conservative, but I understand it. So instead of a 50% cost reduction, maybe they get a 20 or 25% cost reduction with a new approach, which is still substantial. So if it's a $30,000 to produce a Model 3 and you get a 20% cost reduction, now it's $24,000 to produce a Model 3. It's probably not even that much, but maybe they can get down to 24,000. Maybe they can sell something like a Model 3 for around $30,000. I don't think they get down to $25,000 sales price, but maybe that's coming. It sounded like there's multiple models coming, including some that are lower cost, but maybe some that are higher cost. One of my theories for a while has been that Tesla will do a major refresh of the Model X and potentially Model S. They specifically mentioned using existing manufacturing lines. My theory is if Tesla dramatically lowered the cost of making Model X, and one thing you could do is get rid of the Falcon Wing doors because they're very expensive and they're big hassle. If Tesla made something like a Model X, which I would make on a Model Y platform, a larger Model Y, longer, an inch or two wider, 6 inches longer, so you get a real third row out of it. If they did that and they got the price under $60,000, they'd sell. Right now they're selling, I don't know, 50,000 units a year of Model S and X combined. If they did that with Model X under $60,000, they get the tax credit for $7,500. I think they end up selling like 250,000 units a year just a Model X. Does Model S sell in high volume? These luxury sedans just aren't moving. So I personally would let Model S go. As crazy as it sounds, you got Model S Plaid, which is an amazing badass car. I might let that go if Roadster's coming out. Let Model S go because it doesn't sell in very high volume. Revamp Model X because SUVs are a much bigger deal. Make Model X, steer by wire so you can put the steering wheel on the other side. You can sell it in other countries. And all of a sudden, maybe it's even 500,000 units a year, right? That becomes a significant vehicle. Not in the long-term 20 million vehicle world, but in the current, 3 million vehicle world, if they could get, a really hot Model X under $60,000, $7,500 tax credit in the US, that thing sells like crazy. That sounds like nuts. So that to me would make a lot of sense. This is just me speculating that one of the new models could be a Model X with, structure, gigacasting structural pack, maybe not 4680, maybe, some other structural pack, 48-volt wiring, get rid of the Falcon Wing doors, and all of a sudden you've got like a super vehicle for under $60,000 that just destroys the large SUV market. for the mid to large SUV market. Van should be coming too. Yeah, I don't know when they're going to do the van, but that could be coming. And you could do that on the same platform as the X, by the way. If you did an X like I'm describing, you could probably do a van on that platform as well. Uh, or you could do a van on the Cybertruck platform, but I think the Cybertruck platform is a higher manufacturing cost platform, so I might not go that direction. I don't know. So, and they mentioned Cybercab. I can't go without mentioning Cybercab. Robotaxi is called Cybercab. What does that mean? We're going to find all that out on August 8th. I do think that if they're going to be using existing lines, there may be some reduction in production of current models during a ramp. So there may be some slowdown before there's an increase. That's something to watch out for. But 50% greater than 50% growth soon, 3 million units a year. When my guess is 2025, we're trending towards 3 million units a year. And we probably go over 3 million units in 2026, but this is still speculative, and I don't like making short-term predictions about that stuff. I wasn't saying there were rumors about remaking Model X. It's just my opinion that they should. I've never heard a rumor about them remaking Model X. Um, so, and I think, I think there's an open question: when will the next generation vehicle go fully unboxed? It sounds like maybe that's being put off. They didn't say it, but maybe the next generation vehicle manufacturing is actually being put off until 2026. So the full-on robo-taxi vehicle being put off to 2026, I don't love that. I want that thing as soon as possible because I think that's a game changer for the world. If Elon leaves, will you sell your shares? I get this question all the time. I don't make a decision that I'm going to sell my shares if X happens. Okay? If Elon left, the share price would fall. Am I going to sell my shares after the share price falls? That doesn't seem like a very smart strategy. You don't sell low. You buy low, sell high. So I don't make a decision today, okay, if XYZ happens in 3 weeks, then I'm going to sell my stock. And I have no intention of selling any stock, and I haven't sold any stock. I have been worried about this vote. And I will say that if I start getting the sense, like if Institutional Shareholder Services recommends a no vote, then I got to look a lot harder. Because I think if a no vote happens, Elon might leave. And if Elon leaves, I think the share price craters. I think, $150 a share, the share price falls to $50 within a week or two. And I don't know how long it takes to bounce back, and I don't know if it does bounce back. So that scares the crap out of me. Spacecrafter says, don't be silly. Elon is here to stay. Why? Why would Elon be here to stay? If the shareholders vote, are you going to vote no and then tell me that Elon's going to stay? If you vote no, you're saying you don't want Elon there. Right? If a majority of the shareholders, the disinterested shareholders, vote no on Elon's compensation package, that is a very clear message to Elon: you are not appreciated. We don't want you here. And Elon has plenty of other things to do with his time, right? And I think there's a 3D chess or 4D chess version where he swoops back in 3 months, 6 months later, and after the AI engineers have left, he buys up all Tesla's assets associated with AI and robotics for a fire sale price, because Tesla's now a $100 billion company, and the car, Wall Street doesn't value the AI section of the company at all. So, maybe he picks that up for $20 billion and then brings that back to life in XAI. But that doesn't help us as shareholders. They're saying the vote will pass. How do you know? If institutional shareholders recommends a no vote, a large portion of the institutional shareholders will vote no. What percentage of the retail shareholders are going to vote yes? No, I don't know. I want to be optimistic. It wasn't that big of a win last time when he was much more popular. Razors are cheap at Costco. I have razors. I'm just lazy. By the way, my girlfriend likes it when I don't shave. So, do I think Ross Gerber has unfair bias in his commentary? I think Lost Gerbil. He's not Ross Gerber. He's Lost Gerbil. Has lost his way a long time ago. Maybe he never had it, and it's no hope for him. Elon's SpaceX ownership is $80 to $90 billion. Tesla 12% is smaller without his compensation plan. I don't think he owns 80. I think he owns somewhere close to half of SpaceX. That might be 50 or 60 billion, maybe 75 billion. I don't know. I'm not sure if he still owns half of SpaceX, actually. He has a big chunk of SpaceX, but it's just like, I don't think he cares whether his net worth is 200 billion or his net worth is 100 billion. He cares about doing meaningful work at places where the owners appreciate him. And if the owners of Tesla don't appreciate him, that's it. Package aside, hasn't Elon been paid via stock ownership? Well, how much work did you do? You have stock. Did you go into work? I don't get the comment that Elon worked for free without the package. He owns tons of shares. If you own shares, are you going into the company and doing work? He owns the shares whether he works or not. So he doesn't have to work to get that value. He goes to work. We had a contract with him. The Delaware court wrongly invalidated the contract. But I'm not even talking about the whether the court was wrong or not. What I'm saying is, if the shareholders vote no on the compensation package, the shareholders are saying, no, we don't value you at this company. And I think he leaves. Yes, exactly, Adorius. It's the new level of entitlement. You want the smartest man on the earth to work for you for free. I don't know if he's the smartest man on earth. He's a really, really smart man who works really, really the hardest working man on earth. I would go with the hardest working man on earth. If the majority of retail investors want him, he might stay. I don't know. Model X already gets the $7,500 tax. No, I agree that the Model X already gets the $7,500 tax credit. But if the MSRP of the Model X goes to $60,000 or $59,900, and you get the $7,500 tax credit, what's the sales volume? It's $250,000 a year easy. And then you make it drive by wire, so you can put the steering wheel on either side, and you send it to Japan, and you send it to Europe, and you send it to Australia and all over the world, and Thailand or wherever. Maybe it's $500,000 a year. I don't know. Maybe you manufacture them in China too. SpaceX was valued at 180 billion during the last raise. I didn't know that. Okay, thank you. Tesla registered a negative free cash flow of $2.53 billion during the reported quarter. Tesla will have cash for 2 to 3 years with this burn rate. Okay, that's an idiotic comment. Tesla had a negative free cash flow for 1 quarter because of a whole bunch of one-off events. Tesla has had massive positive free cash flow in the previous quarters, and the negative events are gone. And the CFO specifically said that the cash flow would reverse and the inventory would reverse. Jeffrey Jones, thank you for your support. Whether the low-cost vehicle is a new model, why does it matter one way or the other? If there's a version of Model Y that's cheaper, so. The key is that the low-cost vehicle will probably be able to manufacture it in much higher volume at much lower cost. And when you're looking at a robo-taxi world, if you can get the cost down, you can maybe make the vehicle last longer. If you've got a vehicle that costs $40,000 to produce, or let's say $30,000 to produce and lasts 300,000 miles, then that's 10 cents a mile amortizing the cost of the vehicle over the life of the vehicle. If you get a $20,000 vehicle that lasts 1,000,000 miles, well, now you're at 2 cents a mile for that component of the cost of your robo-taxi ride. And that may be an exaggeration. I think Model Y, you get 500,000 miles out of it. But that's the big deal, is being able to manufacture a very high volume of vehicles that deliver rides at a very, very low cost. That's the critical issue. Even if there's a version of Model Y that gets a little cheaper, it's being able to manufacture very high volumes, being able to deliver rides at very low cost, so that you can gradually lower price point. As you get the price point down, you radically increase the volume of people who want ride shares. Right now, Uber and Lyft aren't very big because they sell rides at around $3 a mile in the US, right? As the price of rides falls, as it gets down below $1 a mile, you start to see a lot of people deciding, I don't want to own a car anymore. The people who are higher cost drivers, people who have 2 DUIs on their record, have much higher insurance premiums. People who have bad credit have higher insurance premiums, and they have bad credit ratings. So if they have a bad credit rating, then they have a higher cost of financing. When you put those things together, some people, like the average person, is paying 70 cents a mile, but 10, 20% of the market is paying over $1 a mile. So if you deliver robo-taxi rides for $1 a mile, then all of a sudden a lot of those people say, I'm not going to bother owning a car anymore, which, by the way, is very good for traffic safety. If the people with bad credit and bad driving records stop driving cars and start riding in robo-taxis, then you've taken the worst drivers off the road and the roads get safer. And teenagers have higher insurance premiums, right? Young drivers have higher insurance premiums. They may have higher financing rates. So, and they may not drive a lot of miles. So it may make more sense. Like I have a 18-year-old with my Model 3, like doesn't drive a lot of miles, maybe 5,000 miles a year. Wouldn't it make more sense for her to ride robo-taxis rather than own a car? I'm not selling the car. She's keeping the car. I'm just saying, like for some people, it's the one signed by Elon. We're not letting that one go. Summer Breeze, Elon will never leave. Everyone will troll him on X. I love this Elon. Like I like people like no. Like all right, even if you think he won't leave X, what's the probability that he leaves? Won't leave Tesla. What's the probability that he leaves if there's a no vote? You telling me it's a zero probability? You're that good? You're that confident? What if it's a 20% probability? Well, what's the expected value of the share price if he leaves and the share price goes to 30? If he stays, the share price stays at 160. It's a big hit to the share price. Any probability that he leaves the company is a big hit to the share price. Spacecraft here says this is not even a power struggle in my view. They love Elon. Who loves Elon? So Steel Curtain says the people saying they won't vote yes on Elon's compensation would be livid if they were denied payment for a year's work. They're hypocrites. I agree with that, but the problem is that those people don't care about that argument. The argument that wins those people over, if any argument wins them over, is your share price is going to fall 80% if you vote no. Voting no is saying I want my share price to fall 80%. You have to like, and I've talked to some of these people, and some of them are like, oh no, if Elon leaves, everything will be fine. Do you think the AI team stays if Elon goes? Like, do you understand the offers they're getting from OpenAI and Microsoft and Google and Apple and Nvidia and Anthropic? There's all these companies doing AI that have piles of money that are trying to recruit like crazy. And Tesla engineers are getting poached. And Elon actually got one a job at XAI to keep them getting poached by another AI company. I'm not saying they're going to get poached and all go to XAI. I'm saying they're going to leave. They're going to have. There's great opportunities to do great, interesting work at companies that actually value great engineering work and great AI. And if the shareholders vote no, they're saying we don't believe in the path that Elon has set forth for this company. And he set forth an AI path for the company. Like, well, what does that mean? Well, then you're going to have a new board come in, and the new board's going to bring in a CEO who doesn't value AI. Why would an AI engineer stay in that situation? Will a Trump administration reverse the government tax breaks for EVs? It might. It would need Congress to support that. I'm not really worried about that because Tesla doesn't need the tax breaks anyway. You know, most of Tesla sales are not in the United States. There's probably 2/3 of Tesla sales are in other countries, so that's not that big of a deal for Tesla. Elon should look at how just the retail investors voted before he makes a decision. Why? Why? Why only the retail investors? Why are you telling Elon what he should do? Elon will make the decision how he makes the decision. There's either a risk or not. If Elon leaves, he will take many of the most talented from Tesla. It'll be a disaster. Exactly. I mean, it doesn't mean he takes them. They might go somewhere else. They're not necessarily going with Elon, but they leave. Some might go with Elon. Some might go somewhere else. Some might go to SpaceX. Some might go to Google. There's a lot of places they can go. I think the manufacturing engineers are more likely to stay. I don't know that there's opportunities to do manufacturing work like they're doing at Tesla elsewhere, but the AI team's gone. And now you're basically maybe a better than average car company. And that's a $30 billion, $50 billion company. It's not a $1 trillion company anymore. Theoretically, people could sell now short, then vote no without owning shares. I'm not sure how that works. How will big shareholders vote? We know Koguan Leos said he's voting no. We know Ross Gerber isn't a big shareholder now, but Ross Gerber's wealth management firm owns a lot of shares. So, and I don't know how many shares that Ross himself owns. So there's a lot there that's potential. Tesla does not depend on one person anymore, even on Elon Musk. I agree that Tesla doesn't depend on one person, but if Elon leaves, a lot of those other people leave too, and then Farzad said at least 50% of the greatest engineers would leave if Elon leaves. Yeah, and I think it depends. Like, I think the AI team's all gone. Tesla's no longer an AI company if the AI team leaves. There's plenty of robotics companies that the robotics engineers can go work for. Summer Breeze says, but $55 billion is big money. It's not $55 billion. It's options in the stock, right? That, frankly, we already gave him. We already agreed that he would get. And it does dilute our ownership of the company. But, you know, would you rather own a slightly larger share of a company that's worth $30 billion or $100 billion? Or would you rather own a slightly smaller share of a company that's worth $5 trillion? I'm going to take the 1 to 2%, dilution on a company that's worth $5 trillion over the company that's worth $100 billion with the same, I think you just don't get the point. I think that Cybertrucks in other countries for now are just for show. I don't think they're going anywhere. I don't, they had one in here in Bangkok as well. A deal's nice, but that doesn't persuade the people who think Elon man bad. I don't know why Elon man bad people own Tesla stock. That's a whole nother question. Um, I don't know whether how much influence Ross has over how much his firm's customers vote. Do his firm's customers follow his recommendation and vote the way he says they should? I don't know. Drew Baglino has been selling the same volume of shares every so often under a plan that he's had for a long time. He didn't sell more shares at any point than he was ordinary or already selling. Um, is there a default vote for those people who do not choose to vote their shares? I don't believe there's a default vote. No. I agree that car buyers care about the tax credit at the point of sale. I don't know why anybody thinks I've said anything different. If the tax credit went away, then that would hurt sales in the United States a little bit. But it's not going to affect sales in China or Europe or Thailand or Malaysia, or it only affects sales in the United States. And probably a quarter to a half of US sales don't qualify for the credit anyway. Um, Our preferred shares an option. So let me address that. Sorry, there's a question here. Oh, Emmett Pepper says our preferred. Thanks for joining, Emmett. Our preferred shares an option to grant Elon if they move to Texas. They answered the question about how Elon will get to 25% voting control of the company. They said that they would buy back shares over time. As they generate more cash flow, they would buy back shares. They don't have to give him anything more than the current proposal. They probably will give him another contract to reward him for future improvements in the company. But the big way that they get him to 25% is if they buy back shares. So let's say the compensation packages add up to Elon getting 20% of the company, then they need to buy back something like 12% of the shares. I'm making up the number to get to 25%, which is a lot of money, right? But that, just buying back a chunk of shares would get Elon from 20 to 25%. That's it. Can Ross be helped by Neuralink? Exactly. Um, why scale with less than 50% if you want all control? 25% is enough to have enough significant control of the company. That's the point. I think 20% is enough, honestly, but what do I know? Okay, so what else did I want to cover? 4680. 4680 cost, I think it might have been Lars said this, 4680 cost should be below supplier cost by the end of this year. It was either Lars, or I think there was a guy named Mike or something like that, said that they're continuing to improve on 4680. They're continuing to ramp. They're ahead of Cybertruck demand with 4680, and they're stockpiling for Cybertruck and maybe for other applications. And they said that they should be getting the cost of manufacturing 4680 cells below their cost of buying cells from suppliers by the end of this year. And with that, battery costs from suppliers have dropped dramatically as other companies shift away from full EVs. A lot of the legacy automakers were buying a lot of batteries for EVs that they ended up not being able to sell. They're now shifting to hybrids, which have much smaller battery packs, which means that the battery manufacturers have excess capacity and they're selling batteries for less. So Tesla's costs are dropping. And even with that, they think their 4680 cost will be below supplier cost by the end of this year. So dramatic improvements in 4680. That was an important detail people should know. I covered Cybercab, the robo taxi Elon said is called Cybercab. That's driving a flurry of image creation with AIs and appearing all over the X platform. Another quick detail, the Performance Model 3, if you haven't seen it, Tesla announced the Performance Model 3. 2.9 seconds, 0 to 60 time. I think it was like 25 pounds or so heavier than the long range Model 3. Significant drop in range from like 340 miles down to 295 miles or something like that. But insane performance. There's been some reviews that have been coming out. I haven't watched any yet, but apparently it was named Jason Camissa from Haggerty. I heard a little bit of him talking on a conversational podcast about it, and he's like, this is like nuts. This is like BMW should stop making the M3. Like it's so good that BMW should just stop making the M3. It's crazy good. So why would anybody buy a BMW M3 when they can get this car? Um, will abduction by aliens be a big hit to share price? Yeah. Um, So performance Model 3, I don't think performance Model 3 is a big deal long term for Tesla, the company. I don't think it'll sell in that high volume. Model Y sells in higher volume than Model 3. Performance Model 3, Performance Model 3 for some reason gets the tax credit where the long range Model 3 does not. I don't understand that. Maybe that'll be corrected at some point in the near future. But that means you can actually buy a performance Model 3 for less than a long range Model 3 with the tax when you get the tax credit. So you're talking about in the ballpark of $50,000 for like an insane high performance car. Um, and there are some changes. It's a tiny bit longer. It rides maybe a 0.4 inches lower. So you watch yourself on speed bumps. Okay. So then the last thing I wanted to mention was, and I don't think this is a big of a deal, but other people are jumping on it. Elon was asked about Optimus. He said it will probably be working in a factory by the end of this year doing meaningful work. And sales to customers might be sometime in 2025. Only Elon said that. I haven't seen anyone else on the team get behind Optimus being to the point of doing meaningful work. And in a recent, I think the previous investor call, Drew was a little bit dismissive about the status of Optimus. Elon is pushing the team to make progress. I think it'll take a little long. Now, they do have a massive amount of training compute. The training compute is going up. I don't know how easy it is for them to generate data on which to train Optimus. I think what they really need to do, and they didn't say anything about this, whether they need to start making a significant volume of Optimus so that they can generate training data. That's my theory about it. Maybe they have another way of doing training, but I think that's the big deal. Okay, so I'm through my notes. I'm through my slides. So let me look at the chat. Saving those notes. Mark Plot, I bought the Tesla dip. I just honestly, I didn't buy the dip. I don't have free cash. I thought I was going to know about free cash by April 15th, and my accountant said, no, you're credibly currently out of the country. So my deadline for filing taxes is June 15th. So I won't know my free cash situation in June 15th, which I don't know when the shareholder vote is. So I may not have free cash in time. And I've got, my expenses are about to drop because I'm going to be paying $540 a month for rent for my condo. I've been spending over $1,000 a month on Airbnbs in and around Bangkok, and previously over $1,000 a month in Japan for that apartment. So my rent is dropping to $540 a month. My quality of life is actually going up for a variety of reasons. Once I'm in one place, I'm probably going to spend a little bit less. I'll be better capable of managing my food budget and shopping for groceries and stuff. So, did I mention any update on Dojo? The deal on Dojo is this image. No, sorry, I did talk about Dojo. This is an image from the slide deck showing an Exapod or sorry, a Dojo training cluster, not a render. This I counted 7 Dojo cabinets. An Exapod would be 10. So is there 10 here? And this is just showing 7 or whatever. And I went through, this is a post I did on X. If you go to my profile on X, WR4NYGov, this is in the last, I don't know, 12 hours, where I did a post where I broke down the details on what I think we learned about Dojo. But in short, I think that Dojo, there's this, sorry, let me find that slide. There's this slide from the slide deck that shows the Tesla AI training capacity at over 35,000 H100 equivalent GPUs. In the earnings call, Elon said they had 35,000 H100 GPUs. I think he meant H100 equivalent. I think Tesla has in the ballpark of 20,000 H100 GPUs. They have 14,000 A100s, which is roughly 10,000 H100 equivalent GPUs, and that would mean 5,000 equivalent in Dojo. That's my ballpark guess as to what that meant. Do I think Robotaxi will sell ads in and outside of the vehicle to make each ride even cheaper? That's a theory that I think it was Omar from Holmar's blog advanced that theory at one point. It might even be free to ride in the vehicle, just be compensated by advertising. I don't think so. I think they will charge for rides. Do I have a new girlfriend? I've had a girlfriend since early January, since mid-Jan. Well, I started dating her in early January, and she's been my girlfriend since probably mid to late January. And we are basically living together. She's moving into the condo with me. She's been effectively living with me for a couple of months. Robotaxi will digital sandwich board on roof. I don't know about that. I don't know whether they'll make money from advertising from Robotaxi or not. It doesn't feel like something Elon would want to do. It would have to be compelling in terms of the money that it would generate. How do people argue that after voting no, they expect Elon to remain at Tesla? What kind of logic is that? I don't know. I mean, if you're voting no, I think you're saying you don't want Elon to remain at Tesla. And then you have to ask yourself, why do you think the AI engineers are staying? And if you think the AI engineers aren't staying and you don't care, then what value do you place on a company that no longer does AI and just makes cars? Cal Panda says, am I the only one concerned about the failure of Elon's back pay? I'm very concerned about that failure. I think that's the biggest risk to Tesla shareholders right now. I think that they know they have the votes. I think multiple institutional shareholders said they're going to vote yes. I think T. Rowe Price in particular said they're going to vote yes. I don't think we know about Vanguard and Fidelity, BlackRock. So I think there are some major shareholders, institutional shareholders that are out there that might vote no, and that could be a problem. But I think the optimistic theory is they knew they were going to get a yes vote when they put the vote out there. They already counted the votes in advance. So thank you, Emmett. Yeah, no, I'm super happy. I just want to say, by the way, like, I'm really happy with this girlfriend. Like, I've spent 3+ years looking, 2 years in the US and, 3 months in Japan and whatever, more than 2 months, more than 2 years in Japan, I think, in the US. And I actually, people think, oh, you go to Thailand and, they're like women hanging on trees or whatever. And it's true that there's a lot of women that are interested in foreign men. Finding a quality woman, turns out from talking to other foreigner friends, is not as easy as the reputation being. There's multiple men who come here and they spend 5 years looking and they don't really find the right woman. And I think I was very lucky to find the woman I found. Um, Joel Sapp says, I love the idea of a Tesla web services, but it is hard to know if they're throwing around ideas or very serious. What do you think about selling inference time from cars and eventually Dojo? So inference time would be from the cars. Dojo would be a different thing. I do think that selling Dojo training service is pretty straightforward. Apparently, selling inference time might be more valuable. Um, I think it makes sense, but it's honestly it's a little bit over my head. I went to my buddy, my friend who knows a lot more about this stuff, and he was like, "Look, 95 to 99% of neural net compute is inference. So there's a huge demand for that kind of computing power, and there's a lot of that kind of computing that is needed." That is not time sensitive, and it's okay if your car is driving and only does that compute when it's not driving. Um, what is the feeling on Optimus competitive rank now? Elon seemed less than sure. No, Elon was very, very clear that Optimus is far and away the best candidate for humanoid robotics out there. That the other companies, so here's the problem with the other humanoid robotics companies, and there's room for more than one humanoid robotics company. I'm not trying to, I mean, I don't like Figure. I've been very critical of Figure AI, but you need to be able to manufacture at scale. Only Tesla has the experience and the capability to really manufacture robots at scale. And you need to have real world AI, and only Tesla has that. And then you need low cost inference compute on the robot, and Tesla has great low cost inference compute for the robot. So there's three things that Tesla has that nobody else has, that give them a massive advantage. Is climate similar to Florida climate? I think it's a little hotter than Florida, but otherwise similar. The temperature is typically 38 degrees Celsius or about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. High 37 to 39 pretty consistently right now. It's hot. I sweat a lot. I often shower twice in a day. I haven't had to scrape ice off a windshield in a long time. And I think Bangkok, it's actually interesting that Kuala Lumpur is several, I don't know, thousand plus miles to the south, much closer to the equator, and it's actually cooler by 2 degrees Celsius, 2 degrees. Southern Thailand is cooler by about 2 degrees. Bangkok has got this big, there's a heat island effect to having a big city, and there's not a lot of green space in Bangkok. I have some negatives on Bangkok, by the way, but my girlfriend's family is here, and it just makes sense if we're gonna build a family together, we should build it near her family, and her family's wonderful too. Should mention that. I don't think the assassination plot theory is a big risk. I think that's been a risk for a long time. I think Elon has an amazing security team. Better than Figure. Sorry, I don't understand the question, J. Kim. What's better than Figure? Figure's crap. Yeah, Mark Plot. Figure is. I don't want to say Figure is fraud. That's going a little bit far, but what's the history of the founders of Figure? Let's create a company. Let's raise a lot of capital. Let's do an IPO and make a lot of money for the people who bought it, who invested capital early, and then the share price tanks and we never sell a product to a customer. That's what happened with our last company. And let's ditch the company to go start a new company and do the same thing over again. That's what they did. They have some, I don't know, vertical takeoff and landing, aircraft thing, and they just like half the team ditched. The CEO and a bunch of the leadership team ditched, and I think what was it like the one of the chief officers of the company doesn't even work full time. It's nuts. Would the inference computing web services create wear and tear on the computer, reducing its long-term health on the hardware? No, I don't think that's anything close to a meaningful problem. And I don't think it's that expensive to replace the chip if there is a problem. It would use electricity, and I believe the plan would be that the vehicle owner would be compensated. Meet invested 25K in Figure AI. God bless. Well, I think if you invest pre-IPO and then they pull off the IPO, then you make money. I think you'd be insane to buy on an IPO on this company when there's, what are the chances they actually deliver a useful product to a customer in any volume when they don't have any history of that? Spacecrafters is working out. We'll hopefully find his partner this year. Body getting really muscular, I hope. Yeah, baby. I don't think it shows up that well here, but I just like I've got a lot of muscle. Unfortunately, I've added a lot of fat as well, so I've got to trim the fat down. So what can we do as shareholders to get Elon's pay package settled? Vote yes. Tell everybody you know to vote yes. Did I mention goodbye Reuters? Yeah. Thailand has fiat, the queen on street. I don't know what that is. Could you please explain how Tesla buying back stock could help Elon get to 25%? Okay, so let's suppose the combination of the compensation pack that's proposed now and a future compensation package get Elon to 20% before any buybacks. Okay, so Elon has 20% of the stock in the company. If Tesla buys back, I'm making up a number, 20% of the stock, right? Then Elon goes from 20% of the owning 20% of 100% of the company to owning 20% of 80% of the company because 20% of the stock has been bought back. He now owns 20% of 80% of the company, which is 25%. Wow, I came up with that. I just came up with that off the top of my head and it worked. Okay, let me say that again just to be clear. If the pay packages get Elon to 20% stake in the company, now Elon owns 20% of 100% of the company, right? Tesla buys back 20% of the stock. So now there's 80% left. And Elon still owns his 20, which is a quarter of 80. I think my math works there. Ross Gerber has a notorious new nickname from Elon now. I haven't seen Ross's. Did Elon give Ross a nickname? Was it better than Lost Gerbil? I missed that. The best part is no rear doors. Oh, I did a poll. Let's see what my poll is doing. I did a poll on the Cybercab to see what people think. If you go to my X account, I did a poll. Along with my poll, how many Taylor Swift songs do I have downloaded on my iPhone? Correct answer to that one is 30, by the way. I have 2 albums and another song. How many seats will Cybercab have? 28% think 2 seats, 46% think 4 seats, 11% think 5 seats, and 14.9% answered 69, which was the joke answer. So, do I think with Cybercab and Optimus happening, do you think your bull case will now come to fruition? So, I think there's probabilities, right? I think there is now a 2 to 5% probability that the vote goes against Elon. Elon leaves the company and the company tanks and the stock falls to $30 a share, right? I think there's a really strong chance that the vote goes forward, that everything goes well, or that Elon doesn't leave the company even if the vote goes badly. And they develop Robo-taxi. Robo-taxi on its own, 10 million vehicles, just a really simple model. Tesla owns 10 million vehicles, making $50,000 a year each in gross profit, is $500 billion in gross profit. That's a 25x on 2022. Right? 2022 was $20 billion in gross profit, so that's a 25x. And it actually gets bigger than that because ultimately I could see 100 million robo-taxis generating $2 trillion in gross profit, and that is 100x, right? So that's where I see the company going, and that's before Optimus, and Optimus is even bigger. So, you know, I think there's a substantial probability that all these things happen and everything goes crazy. Thank you, Colin. Love my face. Well, I don't get that a lot. Really appreciate the support. Concerning FSD and the Robo-Taxi network, do you think that buying FSD outright could be like an entry fee to the Robo-Taxi network? Okay, this is an interesting point, and I have a view on this that I think is a little bit controversial. I think that Tesla will let anyone who owns a Tesla put their vehicle on the Robo-Taxi network, whether you paid for FSD or not. Because if you're sitting there in your Tesla, you want as many vehicles in the Robo-Taxi network as possible. And if you excluded people who didn't pay for FSD, your Robo-Taxi network would have fewer vehicles in it, and you make less money. And you make more money on the Robo-Taxi network than you make on selling cars or selling FSD. Now, I think in the long run, Tesla stops selling cars to consumers or doesn't sell significant volume of cars to consumers because it doesn't make sense to sell a car to you who's going to drive it 2 hours a day, and maybe you'll put it in the Robo-Taxi fleet for a few hours a day versus having a fleet vehicle that runs 10, 12, 15 hours a day. And Elon's always saying 10 hours a day. Like, why wouldn't you run it 16, 18 hours a day? 6 a.m. to midnight, they should be running. I'm not smarter than Elon. Just my gut says that Elon is understating that one. So Eric Mulder says, Elon said FSD will happen without him. What would your price target be on the auto energy FSD robotaxi business without Elon? If Elon leaves because of the vote, I think the AI engineering team leaves and robotaxi doesn't happen. I disagree with Elon. I think the AI team ditches. 90% of the engineers leave the company within 3 months and they never finish robotaxi. I'm not saying this is a likely outcome. I'm saying this is a 5% risk right now. And I think ultimately, and then somebody else comes in to run the company and they end up, making really good cars. And they sell 5 million cars a year with a 10% gross margin and great Super Bowl ads. And that's a $100 billion company at best. And that's a $30 share price. Mark Plot says over 1.6 million vehicles can use FSD. Interesting. Yeah. He can't even tell he's an idiot, Elon DeRoss Gerber. Is that a nickname? I don't know if that's a nickname. Yeah, it's a bad, but that is, I know it's a worst case scenario. No, it's not $50,000 a year in revenue on robotaxi per vehicle. It's $50,000 a year in gross profit, Mark. Look, the vehicle drives 100,000 miles a year. Sorry, I want to lay this out for you guys. The vehicle drives 100,000 miles a year. There are Uber drivers who do that now, and they're human. This is a vehicle that doesn't need brakes, right? It has to charge once in a while, but it probably can run the whole, like it can run 100,000 miles a year charging, once a night. That's it. That's like 300 miles a day, right? So it does 100,000 miles a year, not paid, 100,000 miles a year total miles. Okay, and does 10 years, million miles. Let's say 50,000. Let's say 60,000 miles are paid at $1 a mile. That's $60,000. And let's say it's 10 cents a mile cost of operation. That's $10,000 a year, $50,000 a year in gross profit. That's all cost 10 cents a mile. Jiffer says you can't run a robotaxi more than 10 hours because if you do the math, you need charge time. On average daily rate is 200 miles per day, as Uber shows. Okay, so here's the deal. Depending on your usage, in city usage, you're going to get more miles. You're going to get more miles per kilowatt hour. I predict, this is a prediction, that Cybercab will get 6 miles per kilowatt hour. With a 50 kilowatt hour pack, that's over 300 miles of range. And that's EPA rated range. City mileage is actually going to be better. So 300 miles a day on one charge is fine. And it's going to be lithium iron phosphate. So you charge to 100% at night, you go out the next day, you run. If they put a smaller battery in the vehicle and you have to charge in the middle of the day, that's a half hour out of the day. So if you're doing an 18-hour day and you charge for half an hour in the middle of the day, you didn't really lose very much. So you can definitely do 18 hours a day. I think Elon is sandbagging the value of robotaxi. Now, in the early days of the robotaxi network, there won't be enough robotaxis to meet demand even in off hours. So you'll be able to run 18 hours a day. When you get to, 10 years from now and there's, 100 million robotaxis on the road in the United States, I'm making up a number. Let's say 50 million robotaxis on the road in the United States. Then you have saturation. And then they're not operating that much between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. and, 10 p.m. to after midnight or whatever. When Sam Altman left OpenAI, most of the AI team left too. That's right. They threatened to leave, and then he stayed, and they didn't leave. A lot of the AI team was going to leave when Sam Altman left. That's a really good example, Dallas. Thank you. There'll be some number of cars. There'll be a bunch of cars where they're owned by the end user. That end user can add or subtract the fleet whenever they want. Right. So you want every vehicle manufacturer to be in the fleet. Babyface Kerber. That's not bad. There's a scenario out there that people talk about is that they disapprove Elon's package, the stock tanks, and then Elon buys the cheaper stock. I don't know where Elon gets the free cash to buy stock. That's my concern about that. Where does Elon get the cash to buy the cheaper stock? Um, if Tesla drops to $50 a share, he could gain 10% for $15 billion. That sounds about right, but I don't know if he has $15 billion in free cash. Where does he get that money? His money's all tied up in a whole bunch of things. I don't know that he has an easy way of getting $15 billion cash, especially, that I don't know that that's viable. I don't hate the idea. I think some scenario like that would make some sense, but if they did an IPO of Starlink, and that generated, $100 billion, cash pile, and Elon got, 15 billion of that, I suppose that would work. But how much is he paying in taxes on that? One every 24 hours of one car charges in an hour. You're just going to have a lot of chargers. And they're going to charge at night. They're not going to charge in superchargers at night. They're probably going to charge at um, like 20 kilowatt regular chargers, which are like a lot cheaper to deploy. I don't know whether they would charge with superchargers or not. I think with LFP it wouldn't matter as much. Will they not figure out a way to pay Elon if the pay package doesn't pass? Why would he stay if the shareholders vote no? Elon is very much admired in Russia. Selling the Tesla there will be a huge market. That's really dumb. No offense, that's really dumb. Russia's car market is way smaller than Florida's car market. Okay, I hear this all the time. Tesla should sell in this company. Tesla should sell in India. Blah blah blah. Russia is a third world kleptocracy with a crappy economy. The GDP of Russia is smaller than the GDP of Texas, and the average car sold in Russia is significantly less than the average car sold in the United States. Most Russians can't afford a Tesla. The market would be dramatically smaller than Florida. I did see the page about how many FSD miles. I don't know if there was a page about it. Oh, hi, Tesla Boomer Mama. That's not how what works. I'll read page 183 of the proxy, but if you want to explain that, please explain it. If you don't want to explain it, don't. Thank you for watching. Please follow Tesla Boomer Mama. Please follow Emmett Peppers, who was in the chat earlier. Matthias says he can sell SpaceX to a private investor. He's not selling SpaceX. SpaceX, people don't realize this. SpaceX is more important to Elon than Tesla. I can't believe, if you don't know that, I don't think you know Elon. I mean, he loves both of them, don't get me wrong, but SpaceX is way more important to Elon than Tesla, I think. Not way more, it's more important than Tesla to Elon. It's just that SpaceX runs itself well. He doesn't need to put as much time into it. He still spends a lot of time there, though. Robo tanks for Ukraine. I wouldn't opt into a program to charge robo taxis if I got an incentive for doing it. I don't even know what that means. Maybe Elon will stay because he's an emotional attachment to Tesla. So Tesla Boomer Mama, my proposal was that if the result of all the pay packages gets Elon to 20%, I don't know if you heard this before, then if they do buybacks and they buy back 20% of the stock, then Elon now owns 20% versus out of 80%, which is 25%. I think that would work if they did buybacks over the long term. Like, let's say they did, bought 20% of the stock back over a 4 or 5 year period. That would get him to 25%. If he was at 20% when you start that. And that's including, the current pay package that gets approved and then a future pay package. I'll look at page 183 of the proxy soon. Way more important. I'd charge robo-taxis when power is cheapest. Yeah, of course you charge robo-taxis when power is cheapest. Are they going to do different share classes in Texas? That would be interesting. I don't know if that's the plan. But Elon specifically said they would do share buybacks to get him to 25%. So that was he specifically answered that question in the earnings call. It was one of the analyst questions, and he specifically answered it that way. He then said only buy Tesla if you believe in robo-taxis, but you talk about energy and car sales. Meanwhile, Elon says robo-taxis justify the valuation. Why the gap between you all? I talk about robotaxi as the primary source of valuation. I'm not sure who you're talking to, 472 Water. I think that energy is significant, car sales are significant, but they're trivial compared to the robotaxi valuation. How many people are watching? 454. How long have I been going? My God, I've been going for over an hour and a half. This is crazy. Um, preferred shares don't. No, preferred shares don't get voting power. That's not it. Elon said Optimus could mean there will be no limit to the economy. Therefore, Optimus will be the holy grail for Tesla stock. Yeah, listen, if you value Optimus, I honestly see Optimus selling for $100,000 easy with 90% gross margins, so $90,000 in gross profit, and you sell 100 million of them a year, and you just get to silly numbers like $9 trillion in gross profit. And it's not hard to see that getting even bigger. You expect Elon to walk away without getting paid nothing for his work. Could he potentially sue Tesla? I don't think he could sue Tesla, no. No capes, no buybacks. No capes. I don't know. Look, he specifically said buybacks. I don't know why people have it. He specifically answered the question with buybacks. Really appreciate Tesla Boomer Mama in the chat, by the way. Thank you for joining. HVAC doesn't seem to get a mention these days. That's true. I think that they've just decided not to devote the engineering resources. And then in addition, HVAC, for those who don't know, is Tesla makes heating, ventilation, and air conditioning for their cars. And the theory is that the same heating, ventilation, and air conditioning units they make for the cars could go and work on a house and be very efficient. They're very efficient, so there's a big advantage of that. It's a heat pump approach, and there's other advantages that they have technologically, efficiency, whatever. And they've talked about doing that. But I think the challenge would be, number one, you'd have to devote manufacturing engineering resources to that. You'd have to devote some resources to figuring out how are we going to deploy this in homes. We've seen that they've struggled to deploy solar panels and solar roof tiles to houses. So being able to scale that business on the consumer side of getting consumers to buy it might be more challenging. And I think they've just decided that's something we'll do in the future. We don't need to devote the engineering resources and the CapEx to that right now. Get Robotaxi running, and then this is something we can do later. Optimus will not be $20,000. The manufacturing cost might be $10,000, but the value of the bot is $100,000 easy. If people haven't seen that, if you get a bot that's able to do the equivalent of minimum wage of, let's say, $20 an hour work, right? I'm going to use $20 an hour just for this. $20 an hour just for the sake of argument, that not the wage rate, but the cost of the labor, because you pay them a wage plus you pay workers' comp, premiums, whatever. You got a business that has 10 employees. The bot doesn't do the work of any one employee, but it does enough that you only need 9. So you've just saved the employer $20 an hour times 2,000 hours is $40,000 a year, but the bot does 2 shifts, so you've saved $80,000 a year, and the bot works for 10 years and you've saved $800,000. How much is that employer paying for that bot? I'm saying the employer's paying $100,000 easy for that bot. I did not see the page about FSD miles count. No. Thank you, Tommy Two-Tone, for joining the channel. Tesla stock recovered 11.5. Oh, it's 160. Yeah, I don't really work. By the way, somebody just mentioned the share price. I occasionally look at the share price. I do not follow the stock price on a daily basis. I generally don't follow the stock price. I might see somebody mention it on X, but I don't worry about the stock price. I am worried about the future of the company. If Tesla delivers Robotaxi, and you have tens of millions of Robotaxis, and Tesla owns 10 million of them doing $50,000 a year in gross profit, it's $500 billion a year gross profit, and I'm set for life. I'm already set for life, but I'm really set for life if that happens. Like that's crazy money, right? And then ultimately, it goes to 100 million Robotaxis and $2 trillion in gross profit at $20,000 your gross profit per car. And you're just, it's game over. It's 100x. And then you have Optimus, which like 5x is that. 5x on top of that. So you have like a 500x. It's just batshit crazy. And, it doesn't have to be that all of that happens. If we only get a 50x, are we going to cry? Right? Tesla does not have the funds to repurchase 20% of the shares. Correct. Not yet. But if Robotaxi starts pumping out money, then Tesla has a lot of money. I mean, the value that's created by Tesla, generating Robotaxi revenue and profits is a huge cash flow that they can use to buy back shares. Now, the price of the shares rises as they start generating all that cash. So I think there's a decision at some point, okay, we're there and we've got a significant cash pile. Let's buy some shares now before it goes up. I think that might happen. People won't get a loan for an HVAC. Small HVAC systems aren't worth it. Only the business for business HVAC is expensive. Yeah, it makes. I think there's a use case in both cases, but even the business side of it is hard to get businesses to convert over to your business. They're used to doing things a certain way. It's just an investment in the sales team, and I don't think Tesla wants. And then the engineering side, I don't think Tesla wants to make that investment now for HVAC. Opstar says, I'm definitely disappointed that Elon said we shouldn't invest. Tesla's only a car company. Aren't they better than the Chinese? Even if they're better than the Chinese companies and the American companies, what's the upside? If they make 5 million cars a year at 10% gross margin with Super Bowl ads, that's less than a $100 billion company. What's the upside for Tesla being a car company? What's Toyota worth? Right? Toyota is the most valuable car company in the world. What's that worth? What's the market cap of Toyota? I don't even know the answer to that question. Toyota's market cap is 374 billion, right? And they sell like, I don't know, 10 million cars a year, right? Well, we're a $500 billion market cap company now. You want to be a $300 billion market cap company, or you want to be a $5 trillion market cap company? You're not going to be a $5 trillion market cap company as a car company. That's the problem. A 10x increase in 5 years, and I'm really set for yeah, it's just it's crazy. And the numbers get crazy. And the thing is, once they actually have a function, and Elon, by the way, Elon addressed this question of what's the regulatory environment for robotaxi, and he said, and he's not like, I'm not going to claim that Elon's listening to me and saying what I said, but he said the same things I've been saying, right? That we have existing robotaxi fleets with Waymo and Cruise. He didn't mention Waymo and Cruise, but Waymo and Cruise are operating in San Francisco and now Los Angeles. And there's other markets. And Tesla will just introduce robotaxis in the markets where this is exactly what I say every time somebody comes up and says, oh, the regulators will never approve it. Regulators have already approved it. It's already operating. So you just insert it in the robotaxi system that's already set up in San Francisco and Los Angeles and Chandler, Arizona, and a few other cities. And you operate in those cities and you demonstrate this is safer than human. We have half the accident rate of human drivers. If you don't approve us, you're killing people. And Florida has already, I think maybe, I don't know if Elon mentioned it, several states have adopted robotaxi friendly legislation. And, Florida, Texas, and California say yes. That's the three largest states in the country. Nevada's going to say yes. Arizona's already got robotaxis operating. There's probably, half the US population is going to have robotaxis before you blink an eye, right? And then China's going to say yes. China, they don't have to worry about local governments. If the Chinese government says we're doing this, they're doing it. Elon hooked me when he said the comment about the smartphone versus the brick phone. All phones will be smart. Now all cars will be smart, not smart cars. Yeah, no one's going to buy. Who's going to buy a car that doesn't drive itself when you can buy cars that do drive themselves? And frankly, who's going to buy a car when you can buy a ride and you're it's going to take 5 years for robo-taxis to get to that volume that all of a sudden it makes sense to not bother owning a car. That's when the game really changes. Because the total addressable market for robo-taxi rides is so much bigger than the total addressable market for selling cars. The value is insane. Tesla can already take you to a hospital medical emergency. Yep. Do you think Tesla will add a military-grade night heat vision camera for inclement weather situations? No. No, I don't think they need to do that. We drive in those situations without that camera. Why wouldn't they? They will do better than we will in that situation because their cameras are better than our eyes. Gigafactories are the product we need. It sounded like they're backing off producing more gigafactories for now. I think that it's coming, but I think we're probably looking at 2026 before the first next generation gigafactory. I mean, that's one of the negatives I got from the investor call. A lot of people make a living off being a taxi driver. 10 million robo-taxis sounds like 10 million people out of them making a living. Yeah, a lot of people worked as bank tellers and were terrified that when banks started using ATMs, that bank tellers would be out of jobs, and then bank teller jobs doubled. You don't know what happens when you have robo-taxis. And frankly, the people who are making a living off being a taxi driver, the robo-taxi generates better consumer surplus, makes the economy run more efficiently, and creates more jobs. Just because you don't see the future jobs doesn't mean they're not there. We've had this again and again and again. Lingerie shop, no windows. What did I miss there? In the US, there are currently 4 cities when people can take a robo-taxi: San Francisco, Phoenix, Los Angeles, and Las Vegas. Vegas? I think there's more than that, but I don't think it's a lot more. I didn't know Vegas had robo-taxis. Is China going bankrupt? That seems unlikely to me, but I don't know. Yeah, they've effectively banned Uber and Lyft in Minnesota because they put in a minimum wage law. So that robo-taxi just like robo-taxi should be great in Minnesota. But I think those communist states will resist. When all those tourists see robo-taxis working in Florida, the northern, yes, exactly this. I don't know, Jim, if you've heard me say this before. Once robo-taxis are working in Florida, in Orlando, Florida, and Las Vegas, Nevada, the 2 biggest convention centers in the United States, it's not even the tourists, it's the government workers who go to conventions in Orlando and Las Vegas, and they get to experience the joy of robo-taxi life. And they get home and they say, why don't we have this here? They're not doing it for us, they're doing it for themselves. That's the key. Uh, when all cars are autonomous, safety and reliability also improve exponentially as they're all networked. Also, the first drivers to get off the road are the worst drivers. The first drivers to stop driving cars and ride robotaxis are the worst drivers because their cost of owning their own car is higher. Um, cab drivers might switch to managing small fleets of robotaxis and cleaning them out every day, etc. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if cab drivers, cab owners might do that. We'll see. I think there's potential certainly for a yeah, I don't know how that's going to work. Every other Uber driver asked me to cancel the ride and pay them directly in Florida. Oh my God, that doesn't surprise me. And then I would never do that, and I would rate that driver negatively. Um, Waymo can't drive highways off road. Yeah, exactly. Uh, Minnesota's on your short list for communist states will be the last to approve robotaxi. Minnesota, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts, they will be the last to approve. Michigan will be the last to approve robotaxi. The union-dominated states will resist robotaxi. Yeah. All right. Anyway, I've been going for close to 2 hours now. I think it's 1 a.m. here in Thailand in Bangkok, so I think it's time for me to wrap it up. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Mark Plot, Mark Potocnik, and Jim Whitehead for moderating the chat. I really appreciate you guys. Please check out. Please, first of all, support me here as a YouTube channel member. Follow me on the X platform, WR4NYGov, and support me as a subscriber there. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Support me on Patreon. Support me on the Daily Lie, warrenredlick.locals.com. And please vote yes on Elon's pay package. Thanks, everybody, so much. Y'all have a great day or night or whatever it is you have.